Well, hello everyone and happy Wednesday. It's digital host A.J. Wuest here, welcoming you back to Before the Four this fine Wednesday afternoon. I hope you all were checking out Take After Take with Carl Prather and our own Patrick Akers. If you're not sure what that is a live stream, a podcast that we do here in the CTV Center, only on Wednesdays at 2 until 3 o'clock. But an awesome show there, and let me tell you, Carl was dressed to the brim with that gold hat on. I was like, give me some of that gold. That was an awesome hat. But yes, Take After Take, it's a new podcast we're starting here, so was an awesome time this afternoon. But I hope you all are doing well this Wednesday afternoon, wherever you're watching Before the Four, whether it's on Facebook, YouTube, or the 48 Now live stream. Thank you so much for watching and spending just a little bit of your Wednesday afternoon here. Now, let's start off with some news, and let's begin this afternoon in Florence with an update on yesterday's officer-involved shooting. Aaliyah has now released the name of the man killed during the shooting. 26-year-old Louis Michael Hill was the name of the suspect. Aaliyah says the incident unfolded after Lauderdale County Dispatch got a call about a bank robbery in Florence. After the robbery, officers were able to locate Hill's car, which fled the scene. A pursuit began until Hill's car became disabled. Authorities say as he tried to steal another car, he showed a firearm and fired at law enforcement. Officers returned fire, fatally wounding Hill. As the incident went down, a Florence police officer was hit by gunfire and taken to Huntsville Hospital for treatment. Authorities also say an area firefighter, Grace McCluskey, was in the car Hill tried to steal. She was also struck by gunfire and brought to the North Alabama Medical Center. McCluskey and the officer are expected to survive, but this investigation remains ongoing, and we'll continue to keep you updated as soon as we learn more. 48's Noah Cowell and Aria Pons are both in Florence this afternoon, learning more on the situation. They'll have more coming up in our evening newscasts. But now let's talk about this beautiful weather we are seeing out there today. Another beautiful day. Still feeling good out there today, but rain is expected to be on its way with the threat of severe weather moving into the weekend. 48 First Alert Chief Meteorologist Brad Travis has everything you need to know. And how is it looking, Brad?
All right, nice weather, warm weather, very much like it should be this time of year. It looks a lot like spring, and that's exactly what it is. Temperatures today have been in the upper 60s and low 70s as expected. Tomorrow will be in the mid 70s and close to 80 as we finish out the work week. Lots of pollen out there. The hummingbirds are coming back. Current temperatures here just before 3:30 this afternoon are in the 70s. How about that? Potential rainfall. This will be Saturday through early Monday morning. It's not going to rain all weekend. Sunday's actually going to turn out to be a pretty nice day until Sunday night. And once we get to Sunday night, that's when the storm chances really start to increase. So here's your weekend. Saturday around 8 o'clock in the morning, it's cloudy. The showers start to come in after the noon hour, and we continue to watch the timing on this. Once the rain starts moving in, and it could move in later, as you see here in some areas around 6 or 7 o'clock, it'll move in for the rest of the day. We expect some heavy rain overnight through the very early morning hours on Sunday, and then it clears out quickly. We warm up fast. Look at that, 78 degrees or so already by 1:30, 2 o'clock. It's going to be a very muggy Sunday, breezy at times. And then as we get past 9 o'clock, we'll watch the threat of severe weather develop. I think most of the afternoon, it's going to be too warm in the upper levels of the atmosphere for severe thunderstorms, but we could see strong to severe storms Sunday night into very early Monday morning. Here's a look at 1 a.m. Monday. Very heavy rainfall, significant lightning, large hail, and some embedded tornadoes a possibility. That's why we're going with a 48 First Alert weather day. We should quickly clear out as we go into the morning hours on Monday. Here is your forecast over the next 3 days. 76 tomorrow, 80 Friday, 75 degrees Saturday with a few thunderstorms, mainly late afternoon, early evening.
Well, thank you, Brad. Yesterday, the immunity hearing for former Decatur police officer Mac Marquette began. 48's Faith Delp has details on what all happened at yesterday's hearing during its first day.
A total of 4 witnesses, 2 Decatur police officers, a tow truck driver, and a state investigator, spent nearly 8.5 hours detailing what they remembered and evidence from a night in September of 2023. It was the night Steve Perkins was shot and killed by former Decatur police officer Mac Marquette. Now, Marquette is seen here in this exclusive video leaving the courthouse after the first day of his immunity hearing. Testimony from a tow truck driver sent to repossess Perkins' truck that was 3 months behind on payments claimed Perkins pointed a gun at him and told him, quote, "put the truck down." The driver made a personal phone call to an officer to help with the repossession. Officers Christopher McAdam, Joey Williams, and Marquette were in Perkins' yard while the tow truck driver was trying to take Perkins' truck again. Lead investigator Jamie King says the officers did not make themselves known to Perkins, which is what he says was a, quote, failure to keep the peace, and also, quote, unusual for the circumstances. Body camera footage shows Perkins pointing a gun at the driver once again when Marquette yells for him to put the gun down. The video then shows Perkins point his gun toward Marquette. King told the court both men had reasons to fear for their lives at that point. King points out that even before shots were fired, the flashlight on Perkins' gun was pointing away from Marquette seconds before about 18 shots were heard from Marquette's gun.
And that was 48's Nick Ballinger there, recapping day one of that immunity hearing. And today's hearing wrapped pretty early. 48's Callie Neese will have the details from today coming up in our evening newscast. So make sure to stick around for that. But now in ARAB, where we've been hearing of a recent string of car break-ins happening. 48's Savannah Sapp with those details and everything you need to know.
ARAB police officials are asking for the public's assistance as they continue to investigate multiple thefts from vehicles in the downtown area. Police Chief Shane Washburn says the department has received 6 reports of cars being rifled through. He says the people doing this stole multiple electronics and 2 firearms.
Well, it is concerning because we want to make sure they don't wind up in the wrong hands. So at this point, like I said, we're trying to solve these burglaries and hopefully get these firearms back.
Washburn says this is quite uncommon for the smaller community of ARAB.
We very seldom have these type of crimes. Every so often we'll have a rash of these crimes. Generally it's the same individuals going through vehicles and things like that. And most of the time we're able to eventually locate who's doing these.
As officers continue their search for whoever is responsible, Washburn encourages anyone who knows anything or who may have surveillance to reach out.
Right now we're still gathering evidence. We have some videos that we're processing through, so hopefully we'll gather some evidence off that, but we're still looking. If anybody has any information about this crime, please let us know.
In ARAB, Savannah Sapp, 48 News, on your side.
And now in a bit of state news, more students in Alabama are taking to online learning, and leaders with the Alabama Virtual Academy say enrollment has skyrocketed in the years since the pandemic. Melanie Barkley with the Academy said the school has seen a 50% increase in enrollment since 2020. 3,000 students were enrolled in 2020, and now they are serving more than 6,000 students. Barkley said she thinks that after the pandemic, more and more families saw online learning as a viable option for their child. She says students are turning to ALVA because it provides them with more flexibility. Barkley added that the Academy allows them to support their students' unique situations or needs. She explained that students with vigorous activity schedules or health conditions tend to thrive in a virtual learning environment. Barkley added that students lean towards online education because they're able to get more one-on-one support.
The support that they're able to give, and I think the connection that we provide them with our teachers, because we're in their homes. And so, you know, that is a very unique setup for families to be able to have access directly to their teachers.
And now coming up after the break, we'll talk about federal relief money coming to Alabama farmers, the latest on the national security after this weekend's White House leak, and March Madness. Speaking with a reporter with The Athletic on Auburn and Alabama as they head into the Sweet 16. It's all ahead. I'll see you all in 1 minute. Well, hello and welcome back to Before the Four. Staying in state news, Alabama farmers, they will receive federal relief money as harvesting crops is increasingly getting harder. WSFA's Julia Avant has those details.
Harvesting crops is getting harder.
People know that people that farm do it because they love it, but nobody loves it enough just to lose money year after year after year.
Besides natural setbacks like the weather, farmers are facing rising costs and lower profits.
That has created challenges on how to pay operating loans, how to continue to produce the food and the fiber that we depend on.
Economist Adam Rabinowitz says he's never seen it this bad, and if federal government hadn't stepped in, he says farmers might have left the business.
And so when we think about payments like this that can sustain agriculture production, right, we're talking about not just the farmers, but the effects that it has on the inputs that they purchase for their production, the salary and wages that they provide to households within the state that work in the industry, and then ultimately those expenditures that go from there into our state's economy on entertainment, healthcare, education.
This relief is for row crop producers. They produce our staples from wheat and cotton to corn and peanuts. If all farmers eligible apply, up to $70 million in federal money will come to Alabama, supporting the state's existing $77 billion agriculture industry.
That was the first time I think we really as a nation to realize that food security is national security. And so as bad as things can get in these trade wars with China and Russia and other countries, if we can't feed ourselves, then we're going to be beholden to some really bad deals we're going to have to make to feed people.
In national news, some more fallout after a reporter was accidentally included in a top-level group chat about sensitive war plans in Yemen. This as President Donald Trump assures no heads will roll as a result of the error. Our WAFF Washington correspondent Molly Martinez brings us the latest.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth on the defense.
Deceitful and highly discredited so-called journalist. Nobody was texting war plans.
Screenshots from the chat prove otherwise. The Atlantic editor-in-chief, Jeffrey Goldberg, says he was included in the chat, but didn't believe the contents until the bombings began. Trump cabinet members spent Tuesday doing damage control.
Did you participate in the group chat with Secretary of Defense and other Trump senior officials discussing the Yemen war plans?
Senator, I don't want to get into the specifics.
Ma'am, were you on? You're not going to be willing to address. So you're not. Are you denying? Matt, will you answer my question, ma'am? You were not TG on this group chat.
Former Pentagon spokesperson Chris Marr calls the mistake a dereliction of duty.
Completely sloppy and incompetent behavior up and down the board.
Meanwhile, Democrats are demanding accountability.
If this was the case of a military officer or an intelligence officer and they had this kind of behavior, they would be fired.
Late Tuesday, top-ranking Democrat Hakeem Jeffries called for the immediate firing of Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, saying, quote, his behavior shocks the conscience and risked American lives. In Washington, I'm Molly Martinez.
Well, both Auburn and Alabama are all set for the Sweet 16. The Crimson Tide will take on BYU tomorrow for a chance to secure a spot in the Elite Eight, and Auburn taking on Michigan Friday. Today, Chris Vanini with The Athletic joined in with 48 Now to talk some hoops. Take a listen. Of Alabama, between the two teams here in our state, Auburn and Alabama, of course, who would you say has the easier path to the Final Four?
Well, I'd probably say Auburn just because I picked Duke to win the national championship in my bracket, and I think they are a popular pick from a lot of people. And that's if Alabama beats BYU, that is potentially going to be their matchup in the Elite Eight. Auburn is going to play a Michigan team here that has been up and down toward the end of the season. They won the Big Ten tournament, though, and they won their first 2 games, just beat Texas A&M. So they are kind of on a bit of a roll right now. But it's a team that wins a lot of close games. I think something like 11 or 12 of their last 15 wins have all come by 4 points or fewer. They keep pulling a lot of these games out at the end, which is a skill to have, but they're not a great free throw shooting team. They turn the ball over a lot. Auburn is going to be a really difficult matchup for Michigan. So between the two teams, between Auburn and Alabama, I think Auburn's probably got a better path right now. And then depending on the Elite Eight, do you play Ole Miss? Do you play Michigan State? Either one of those will be tough, but you're always going to have a tough matchup in the Elite Eight.
Right, I do agree with that 100%. Just because Duke is just the dominant force that they are this year. But what can you expect? Of course, this is hypothetical. Alabama has to beat BYU. Duke has to beat Arizona. But what can you expect a Duke-Alabama Elite Eight matchup to look like with Mark Sears and Cooper Flagg on the same court to battle it out for the Final Four?
Yeah, I mean, 2 of the best players in the country, obviously, and Cooper Flagg, who got hurt in the ACC tournament, sprained his ankle, didn't come back in the tournament. He's looked good through the first 2 games. He seems to be good to go. He's going to be the number 1 pick in the NBA draft next year. But Alabama's got size. Alabama's got length. Alabama's got really good guard play led by Mark Sears. I expect Alabama versus BYU in the Sweet 16 to be a very high-scoring game, maybe one of the highest of the entire tournament. 2 of the best offenses in the country. And I could say pretty similar if we got Duke, Alabama. I think those are 2 teams that are going to put up a lot of points if they were to meet that far again. And, SEC has had some high-scoring teams this year, and Alabama's right there.
Absolutely, and we touched on it a bit, but talk about just this Auburn team this year and what they've been able to accomplish, obviously, with Janai Broome, but also the impact of players like Denver Jones, Pettiford, Baker Mazzara. I'd say this team is pretty stacked.
Yeah, I mean, they were the number 1 team for almost the entire season for a reason. They are just kind of loaded at every spot, and you've got probably the best player in the country in Janai Broome doing that. There was the struggles at the end of the regular season. You lose 3 of your last 4, but those are pretty tough games because the SEC might be the best conference in college basketball that we've ever seen this year. And through 2 games in the tournament, Auburn hasn't had much trouble. They seem to be doing pretty well. This is a team that, you lose the game to Yale last year, and you see a lot of teams when they get upset in the tournament and they bring a lot of people back the next year, they often rebound and go on a big run. Remember, Virginia lost to 16 seed UMBC. They win the national championship the next year. Purdue lost to a 16 seed in Fairleigh Dickinson. They went to the national championship game the next year. So I think everybody in that Auburn program has that taste of last year, and that continues to drive them. I know Bruce Pearl has said he doesn't like being the top seed. He likes the mentality of being an underdog and being a 12 seed. And I think that's what last year kind of does to a team. And you've seen that pretty much throughout the entire season.
Yes, time will tell for both the Tide and the Tigers, without a doubt. I am super excited for these matchups, and hopefully we'll see both of those squads head on to the Elite Eight, 100%. But now it's a pretty startling statistic. Up to 3% of children in this country don't have a bed. That's according to a nonprofit called Sleep in Heavenly Peace. Today on The Good Side, introducing you to a man who's made it his mission to lower that number one bed at a time.
On a cold Michigan morning, it's bunk bed delivery day.
Always a good day.
Jared Olson is about to warm up one family's life.
Doing 4 beds. So yeah, four little girls that need one.
A bunk bed and 2 single beds for a family in Lansing.
Morning, how are you?
Pretty good, how you doing?
Good. You just show us where we're going?
Okay.
But before any beds go up,
Raise your hand if you've been here before.
the bed frames have to be made.
Now raise your hand if you've never been here before.
Jared Olson is president of the Lansing chapter of Sleep in Heavenly Peace and chief handyman in charge.
Basically 3 assembly lines.
He helps dozens of volunteers turn raw lumber into all the parts needed to build bunk beds and single beds for kids who don't have one to call their own.
It was something that I was doing because I had the time to do it to kind of help give back, and it turned into something a lot bigger than we ever thought it'd be.
When he started volunteering 7 years ago, the need was overwhelming.
The first year, we had a wait list of, I think, about 750 or 800 kids in the first year. And that's when myself and a good buddy of mine who I had roped in to help me started freaking out a little bit.
Jared didn't step back. He stepped up to the challenge.
It took us nearly 3 years to catch up that list, but we've continuously grown every year.
Oh, low ceiling. For Jared, what started as a bed-building pastime has grown into a life-changing passion. On this delivery day, Jared is changing the lives of single dad Walter Dittis and his 4 daughters.
Means a lot to him.
With the help of his 11-year-old daughter Ella,
Once you give me the drill, I need 3 more of these bolts.
Jared is piecing together pre-drilled lumber for a new way to slumber. These 4 girls, twin 3-year-olds, a 5- and 6-year-old, will soon have a chance to sleep in heavenly peace. But before the peace and quiet comes a noisy necessity that nobody seems to mind. And when the construction is complete and the new mattresses and bedding goes on, rest assured, Jared knows he has improved the lives of these 4 young girls.
I look back and say, personally affected X number of lives of kids. You know, and that's, to me, that's important.
Yes, awesome story there. And now let's head into the stories you're just not going to want to miss coming up in our evening newscast. A Jackson County school closing its doors. 48 Savannah Sap will have more on that coming up. A new vending machine for books opening at one Morgan County school. And Huntsville police are hiring safety patrol aides. Learn all about it coming up, and these are just a few of the stories you're just not going to want to miss coming up in our evening newscast. And I think we all know what time it is. Let's pull it up. Sorry, bear with me one second. This is still a new thing we are launching. That was actually yesterday's. Let's see if we could send today's Facebook question of the day. And our 48 Facebook question of the day, of course, was your favorite thing about North Alabama in the spring. And Michelle Robinson here, she said lower utility bills. That is fair. You do not have to blast that heat like you had to in the winter. The brutal months of December, January. Ooh, do not want to go back there. No way. All right. Yeah, that is a very valid comment there. Let's see what else people are saying. Debbie, seeing the flowers bloom and the return of the birds. That is right. The birds are chirping and the flowers are blooming, and it is just so gorgeous here in the Tennessee Valley. It is amazing, especially when you're seeing all those leaves change, or not change colors, but you're seeing everything bloom. It is so gorgeous this time of year. And yes, that is very springy there. Let's see what else people are saying. Tina said, when my tree starts blooming, there, another one there, 100%. This is from my coworker, Miss Kate Norum. She is a digital content producer. She said, hiking and sporting events, 100%. I know the Trash Pandas, they're starting their season pretty soon. Just, I think, a week, 2 weeks away from the Trash Pandas starting. And of course, the hiking, such a beautiful time to hike. And also this Friday, Huntsville City FC is starting their season. So yes, and I just love, honestly, just the weather. That's my favorite thing. And not this kind of weather, though. Danielle said tornadoes. I am not a fan of that weather. I'm a fan of the warmth. Yeah. I definitely do not agree with that comment there, but to each their own, 100%. Well, that is just about it for today's Before the Four. Thank you all for sticking around and spending a bit of your Wednesday afternoon here. If you haven't done so already, make sure you download the 48 digital app, the 48 First Alert Weather app, and the 48 Sports Zone app. Turn on those push notifications and you will never miss a breaking news story. And also don't forget, tonight at 9:30, 48 First Alert meteorologist Brad Travis. He will be right here wherever you're watching Before the Four right now for his weather extra. So definitely going to want to stick around for that. But hope you all have a great afternoon. Enjoy tonight's evening newscast. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You all have a great night.